In an age of abundance, we are impoverished. We chase objects as though they were talismans, hoping they might complete us. And sometimes it helps to remember that this craving for more isn't new. We aren't the first ones to feel buried under the weight of wanting, and we are definitely not the first ones to ask what happens when we say no to the noise. The old philosophers, the hidden sages, said that the world of matter is a mirror, not a home. So today I want to share with you how we can turn our gaze inward, away from the glittering shadows, and rediscover the source of all richness within ourselves. What would you gain if you lost the weight of the world's things? How do we teach the mind to desire less and evolve more in a world built to profit from our dissatisfaction? Now, the occult perspective tells us that the mind is not just a product of the brain, but a tool of the self, a deeper center of awareness that must be cultivated. Evolution, then, isn't just physical. It is the unfolding of consciousness beyond the material veil. But in this world, the mind is constantly pulled outward. It's like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. Now, the goal isn't to reject the material altogether or to romanticize poverty. It is to stop clinging, especially to what is impermanent. From the standpoint of materialism, consciousness is treated as a secondary phenomenon, a product of chemical reactions, neural pathways, and chance evolution. But the occult perspective offers a very different model, one where consciousness is primary and matter is its expression. Now, to understand how this changes our view of evolution, we have to explore how the self interacts with the world, both from within and from without. And this reciprocal movement between the inner and outer worlds reveals that our development is not driven by material conditions alone, but by the conscious recognition and interpretation of experience. Now, the occult path doesn't deny the physical, it integrates it into a broader view, where spirit, mind, and matter are layers of one reality, not separate domains. And this is where we begin to break free from the limits of materialistic thought. Beauty, comfort, even wealth, none of these are inherently wrong. But when our identity becomes bound to them, when our self-worth is measured by what we own, materialism becomes a prison. And this isn't because we're shallow, it's because we're human and we've been conditioned. Entire industries exist to sell us the feeling that something is missing. Marketing doesn't just offer solutions, it manufactures the sense of lack. Buying things gives a quick rush, a brief sense of control, of progress, but it fades fast and we are left wanting more. And social media, I am genuinely not good at it at all. I do not understand it, Instagram or TikTok especially, but for many people, social media only intensifies this illusion. Everyone else seems to have more, be more, enjoy more. But there is another path, one that begins inward, and you can unlearn what you've been taught. Now, the Stoics, though not occultists, knew part of this truth. We can't control what happens to us or what others have. We can't hold on to anything forever because objects break, disappear, go out of style. But we can control how we relate to them. Now, Seneca put it simply, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. In occult terms, this craving ties the mind to the lowest planes of vibration, to the illusion that fulfillment lies in form. The more we identify with the outer, the more we forget the inner. So the self becomes buried beneath the noise. So if nothing you owned could speak for you, what would? And that silence, that space where the answer arises, is the beginning of the occult path. Thousands of years ago in Egypt and Greece, the philosophers in the Hermetic texts tell us that the world of matter is a shadow, a copy of a higher, truer reality. Now, Hermes Trismegisto says something like, we are not a body, but a soul, a mind, and a divine fire clothed in flesh. But somehow we forget. We let the body lead, let desire speak, and we cling to possessions as if they could protect us from death, from emptiness, from meaninglessness. But the more we own, the more we are owned. We speak of materialism as though it is a problem of consumption. Too many things, too much buying, too much waste. But that is only the surface. The deeper materialism, the one that truly chains us, lives in the mind. It is not the object that traps us, it is the meaning we give it. We are taught to measure our worth in what we possess, to define success by the car, the home, the clothing, the image, to define safety by what we can hoard. This is a kind of enchantment, and in the language of ancient initiates, it's a spell of matter, a forgetting. In the Chaldean oracles, it is said to enclose not the soul in the body's tomb, but raise it upwards to the fire of the divine. They understood something we have now lost, that the world of matter has weight, and that weight drags the soul down if we do not master it. And the longer we are surrounded by things, the more we are tempted to believe that we are one of those things, a body, a name, a status, a collection. But we are none of those, and we are not what we own. We are what remains when all of that is stripped away. And that essence, is the real subject of occult philosophy. All true occult work begins with one act, disidentification. The Hermetic sages called it anagoge, from the Greek meaning leading upwards, or in this context, the turning of the soul upward. Not from life, but away from the illusion that you must possess things in order to be. The illusion that meaning is external, that fulfillment can be bought or worn or posted. It cannot. And the more we chase it outward, the more we lose the very center from which it arises. So the first step is this: we must break the spell and learn to see clearly again, to cleanse the lens of the mind until we no longer confuse what we have with who we are. Plotinus taught that the soul descends into matter and forgets itself. It begins to believe that it is what it sees. So again, we identify with the house, the clothes, the reputation, the body, the bank account, and then we suffer. Because all these things change, they fade, and they are never truly ours. So what if we stopped? What if we reversed the descent and began to ascend again? Now, the occult tradition is not about rejecting the material outright. It's about placing it in right relation to the spiritual, as I mentioned previously. The wise do not hate the world, they see through it. So I'll try to share with you how this freedom can be achieved, not by force or by renouncing all pleasures, but by learning to see clearly, to think differently, and to live as though your soul matters more than your stuff. Because nothing you own will save you, but something you already are might. These ancient minds left behind methods, practices, rituals of the soul, and the first and most powerful of these is also the most invisible: attention. Where you place your attention, your energy follows. When your attention is constantly drawn outward to objects, screens, appearances, prices, likes, your soul becomes scattered, fragmented. Now, Plotinus taught that the soul becomes like what it beholds, and so the practice is simple but lifelong. Withhold your attention from what does not feed the soul. Turn it inward, turn it upward. This is the first purification, the withdrawal of the senses, the retraction of desire. Let the images of the world pass before your mind like shadows on water, and do not chase them. Because we are not what we want, we are what witnesses the wanting. This is the first key to spiritual freedom, to stop identifying with the pull of the world. The second practice is will. In the Chaldean oracles, it can be read that the theurgic power is not attained by idle wishing. It is born from divine fire and human will united. This means that the work of freeing oneself is active. Every time you choose simplicity over excess, presence over distraction, restraint over indulgence, you are strengthening the soul's sovereignty. The will, sharpened by practice, becomes a blade that cuts through illusion. And the third practice is remembrance. We fall into matter because we forget who we are. So each day those ancient philosophers call themselves back, through invocation, contemplation, and ritual. They look to the stars and to the forms, not to the market or fashion. They remember the divine flame within and lived from that center. You don't need robes or altars, you only need stillness and intention. And then ask yourself, what am I feeding, the ego or the essence? Because every act, every thought, every purchase is an offering. The question is, to which altar are you laying your life down? In this world, it is easy to forget, easy to believe that your value lies in your status, easy to mistake noise for meaning and movement for growth. But you're not here to collect things. You're here to remember what cannot be bought, to become what cannot be sold. The old writings say how the excellence of the soul is in understanding, as the soul grows by divine knowledge, not by accumulation, but by awakening. The mystics call this inner alchemy, turning the lead of the ego into the gold of the spirit. The ancient philosophers were not the last to warn us. Carl Jung, who studied Hermetic and Gnostic texts, said something like, "The modern man is in danger of losing all contact with the world of his soul. The greater the accumulation of goods and services, the emptier his inner life becomes." Now, this is paraphrased from his book, Modern Man in Search of a Soul. So in Jung's language, we have become possessed, not by spirits, but by the things we desire. He believed that our addiction to consumption was a way to avoid the deeper work, the facing of the shadow, the descent into the inner world, the slow, painful transformation of the self. Jung called this process individuation. The alchemists called it the great work. Different names, same journey. It is the turning of lead into gold. Not physical gold, but the gold of a unified, awakened soul. So Jung also studied the old alchemical texts and saw that they weren't just about chemicals, they were maps of consciousness and rituals of inner purification. So Jung believed that the modern world had become overly rational, materialistic, and outward focused at the cost of spiritual and psychic health. This imbalance between the inner and outer worlds created neurosis, anxiety, and what he called loss of soul. He literally said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Elena Blavatsky regarded materialism as one of the most profound dangers of the modern era, not on a social or economic level, but intellectually and spiritually. For her, materialism was more than consumerism or greed. It represented a form of spiritual pathology, a kind of metaphysical blindness. She said that to believe that only matter is real is to deny the higher, invisible dimensions of existence, realms which, in her view, are essential to understanding the true nature of the human being. In The Secret Doctrine, Volume 1, she wrote, "Modern science believes not in the soul, and hence not in its vehicle, the spirit. It ignores even the existence of the astral body." Now, she also said that nothing is appreciated but that which brings in a return in hard cash, and identified the present age as the Kali Yuga, a period in which the soul is drowned out by the relentless noise and distraction of the material world. Now, this is considered to be the final and the most corrupted of the 4 Hindu world ages or yugas. Now, her call to spiritual seekers was clear: to awaken from the illusion or Maya and to recall the deeper truth, that human beings are fundamentally spiritual in nature and not mere instruments of sensation. Gerard Dancus, better known by his pseudonym Papus, was a physician and one of the most influential esoteric thinkers of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. In his elementary treatise of occult science, he argued that materialism leads to disintegration of both soul and body. For Papus, the proper aim of human life was spiritual development, not simply survival or material success. He saw an over-identification with the material world as a kind of decay, a turning away from the deeper realities of existence. And Rudolf Steiner, the founder of anthroposophy, offered a different but related perspective. To him, materialism wasn't just a denial of spiritual realities, it was a kind of perceptual dulling, a veil that prevents us from seeing the spiritual dimensions of the world. Steiner believed that a materialistic worldview limits more than just how we think. It shapes what we are even capable of perceiving or experiencing. In his view, developing our inner senses was just as crucial as developing our intellect. So in a world obsessed with surfaces, to seek the unseen is an act of resistance. To choose depth over speed, silence over noise, presence over performance, these are modern forms of magic. Small, invisible rituals that protect the soul from forgetting itself. And maybe that's the real work, to stay awake in a sleeping world, to live from the inside out and to remember that we are not consumers of reality, we are participants in a mystery. In the end, materialism isn't just about possessions, it is about perception. And from the occult perspective, the real danger lies in forgetting that there is more to life than what we can see or measure. So thank you for being here today. If you have any thoughts or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And until next week, stay curious and stay connected to what lies beyond the surface. See with more than eyes and think with more than mind. Bye.